Hey guys, this is lesson 1, and we're going to talk about our story because we all got into music at some point and decided I need to do this at some point in our lives. Usually there was either a moment, a defining moment, or maybe a life-changing event, or maybe a series of moments or events where we thought, I need to do that. There's something inside of us, like a hunger or a thirst that was just like, I've got to do it. I want to learn how to play that instrument, or I want to learn to sing. And I just want to tell you for a second about my real bio and my background and what I'm doing today. So I grew up in a little bit of a tumultuous home as a child. Great parents, but they divorced when I was young, and that really affected me very deeply as a child. And I didn't realize I was doing this, but I just naturally was kind of diving into music. Like I would listen to music. There was like a lot of songs that, I don't know, I would put on my headphones, and I was just like, I went to another place, like it was an escape for me. And of course, like any kid, you just sing along and all of that. And at one point, I just remember singing along to some things, and I kind of sounded like that, or I don't know, I loved singing. And then like most people, you get really good at it by mimicking. And so whether you're a guitar player or a singer, usually you get good by mimicking other people and think, hey, I kind of sound like that person, or I can kind of follow along. And then eventually, if you do it enough, you kind of get your own sound and your own style. So as a child, that's what I did. And I think my first favorite singer that I was really into was like Lisa Loeb, that singer-songwriter. I think she had that song called Taffy, and a bunch of other songs. As a child, music was an escape for me. It was a way to get out of the painful situation that I was forced to be in, that I had no control over. And I think there's a lot of people that have gone through some situations, and I don't think there was, I can't remember one pivotal moment where I thought, I want to do that. But as the years went on and I continued to let music be my escape, and I listened to a lot more other singers, and I would be mimicking them and feeling like, I loved it. I would sing all day if I could. And at some point I knew I want to be a singer. And for other people, it might be, like the first time they saw Jimi Hendrix play guitar or something like that, or went to a concert, But the point is that our defining moments have changed us and shaped us in such a way that it kind of directs our musical path right from the get-go. And whoever we were listening to at the time kind of is a big influence on what we do for the rest of our lives with our music. And so time went on, and I always wanted to be a singer throughout my teens, and I was pursuing it. But at the time, the internet was, it wasn't like a new thing, but it was not it wasn't used for music like it is now. It was like there was sort of Napster and stuff in my early 20s, but it wasn't leveraged the way digital music is used now. So throughout my teens, I just had this idea that I had to get discovered, that I would have to, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, how do people get discovered? How do they do that? And so I would play some live, and I would do like coffee shops and small little competitions and things like that, because I didn't know how were people going to hear me. Like I clearly, I need a record deal if people are going to hear me. I'm never going to get exposure. And I had all these songs I had written. I had learned guitar and piano and learned some skills, but I just didn't know how to do it. Like, there was no other way. You had to get in front of people and play gigs, and hopefully an A&R agent would show up, or someone useful would be in the crowd and see you and say, I have a contract for you. I didn't know how else to do it. And so the years went on, and I ended up getting married really young. I was about 21. And I got married, and the next thing you know, we're starting a family. And we're young, and we had a bunch of kids, like in a row. And here I am thinking, great, I mean, I love my family. This is amazing. This is like so many people's dream come true. But I felt like, well, I guess my chance for pursuing a music career is over. I guess that's it. I can't do both. I mean, my kids need me. I have little babies, and my husband needs me, and people need me, and I'm needed. And there's a lot of demands, and I don't have any time, and who would want to listen to a mom anyways? Who would, that's not cool. So, time went on, and but there's this nagging thing inside me, and I thought, I've got to do it. I mean, I don't know how, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I just know I have to do it. I know that if I don't play music, something in me is going to die. And that's not going to be good, because one day my kids are going to leave, and I'll just be this empty shell of a person who gave all the time but never pursued my other calling. Because did you know that you can have more than one calling? Having a calling is something that you do and who you are that would be very difficult to replace. So yes, I am a wife, and I am a mother, and I'm many things to many people. But I also have this other calling. And that one I was born with, and that is music. So sometimes you realize there are seasons in life where it's a good time to pursue certain things. And then there are other seasons in life where you have to put it on the back burner. And so that's all fine, and that's what I had to do. I had to put music a little bit on the back burner. But I had this idea that I had to give it up. And that was wrong. You don't have to give it up. You just have to know what season you're in and when it's a good time to fully invest in something and when it's not, but to know the difference and to know, well, you can keep your foot in the door too on something and also fulfill your other duties and callings. So life went on, and I have these kids, and in the meantime, I realized I'm going to continue to write. I will write, I will sing in my basement. And then I also had a friend who owned a studio, and we would, once a week, I would go over and we would do some songwriting and some recording just for fun. He was an older guy and had some time on his hands, and we were friends, and so we'd work on songwriting together. We were going to submit them, like maybe other people would sing my songs, that kind of thing. And it was a really good experience, for one, because I got to continue to just keep my foot in the door, and it was just more of a consistency thing. I didn't give up, and I knew I was going to keep pursuing music. I just didn't know what door I was going to go through. Like, am I going to be discovered? Are other people going to sing my songs? What genre am I even going to do? I have no idea. So I did this for a number of years. And eventually, I had an opportunity to actually record a full album. And I really had to think that one through. On one hand, it was a no-brainer. And on another hand, I thought, well, this is going to be kind of a big commitment. And in the end, I ended up recording a 12-song album. And it took me over 2 years to do that. And the reason was because I was only working on it once a week. Sometimes not even every week. I was just chipping away at it, and it took me a really long time. And in the meantime, I was having more kids. And by the time I went to actually sing my vocals on that album, I was pregnant with my 4th baby. And I was like 8 months pregnant, I think, when I sang in the studio. And in fact, that whole album, I had to sit in a chair and sing my vocals. I couldn't even stand, just because when you're standing for long periods of time and you're pregnant, your back is not happy. So I wasn't feeling too hot at the time, like you're just this big pregnant lady singing in a booth. and then, I had my baby, and then I launched my CD. It wasn't really a launch though, I just put it out there, uploaded it to YouTube, and hoped for the best. I had no idea. I mean, there was no press release. There was nothing to it, because No one had ever heard of me. I hadn't built any buzz of any kind. I had like 3 fans, and they were relatives, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had all these fears, you know, like I'm not the package that I used to see on MTV back in the day when I watched MTV all day, you know, like music videos of artists that they just kind of, you know, it was back when there was these big music labels, and if you were anybody, you were on them, and if you weren't on them, you were a nobody. There was no underground like indie scene where people actually doing very well for themselves. No, it was either you were on a label or you weren't. And so I had this idea in my mind of how I had to be, and I had to fit in this box, and I had to look right and be right and sound right. And there were all these inhibitions that they were stumbling blocks, and they were preventing me from doing it. And I had these fears, but then it was like, okay, I have to just put it out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? I take it down? Or what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone can be mean or say they don't like it. I mean, why? I can't let the rest of my life go by and not fulfill my calling because I'm afraid of what people will say or do. This is in my blood. If it wasn't in my blood, if I wasn't born to do this, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have that hunger and desire in me to continue making and writing music. It's in me for a reason, and I need to follow through with it. And so I did. I had to put it out there. And some good things happened, but I sure learned a lot. You know, after that, I basically became obsessed because I realized I had all these questions and I had no idea what I was doing. I had all kinds of questions like, okay, if I were to do this over again, what would I do? Because I realized I put it out there and it was kind of a flop, you know, and it wasn't very strategic. So I had a lot of questions like, how do I market my music? How do I leverage the internet? Do I need to like copyright? What's up with copywriting? I mean, there's like people who believe not copywriting at all. And there's other people who are, you know, copyright crazy people and really, you know, stingy about that. And there's a lot of conflicting information, and like, which social media platforms do I need to be on, and do I need to like upload all my music to all these different artist profiles and Reverb Nation and MySpace, which I think probably died a second time now, and a whole slew of questions like, how do I create a buzz? How do I find a super fan? How do I get people to follow me, and how do I keep them, and how do I get them to buy my music? I mean, it's one thing to stream music now, but how to get them to buy it? And there's just so many questions that, like, it was so overwhelming. Even stuff like my artwork, and how do I budget properly for an album, and how do I find somebody to mix my music so that I like it? I mean, it's a big risk hiring people to do things, and you're paying them money, and you hope that it turns out all right. I mean, lo and behold, there's actually a system of doing this thing that nobody tells you, that I had to figure this out the hard way. And because my personality is a very systematic, methodical type of personality, I just naturally started organizing these systems and processes into steps. And so the next time I do a project, and the next time I do a project, I started figuring out, oh, I'm going to do it in this order again, because it made sense. And because it made things run smoothly. And I sure learned what didn't run smoothly, what I regretted doing, and a whole lot of other things. And even things to do with crowdfunding. So I had one not very successful campaign, which, you know, I raised some funds. And then I had one that was extremely successful. I raised over $27,000 in a crowdfunding campaign all by myself. No band to help me or nothing. And I've never done a tour. So these are just super fans that actually put their money where their mouth is. And how did I find those people? Where do you find these kinds of fans on the internet if you don't even tour? And that was a huge obstacle I had to overcome, was how can I pursue my passion, my music, my calling, make a career out of it if I can't even tour? I got this family, I got kids that need me, I have friends, And how I can't just jump on a tour bus. I can't do that. It wouldn't make sense for my life, and it doesn't honor my key priority in my life, which is serving my family and loving and being there for the people that need me. So that didn't fly. And I do hope I get to tour one day, by the way. And there's lots of cool internet options and streaming options that we can take advantage of now that weren't there 10 years ago. But that was a huge obstacle. It's like, okay, why even get into the music industry if I can't even do what everybody else is doing? It won't work for me. It's not going to work. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I can't tour. There's just obstacles. And it's very likely you have obstacles. You have things that seem to get in your way. And when you're finally driven, and you're resolved, you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. Something comes up. Isn't that always how it goes? Something's going to come up that kind of prevents you from following through. And you know what? How I see that is I see it as a challenge to overcome. We've got to stop viewing those things as reasons why not to do it, and start realizing as, you know what, this challenge has been put in front of me for a reason. This, what seems to be a stumbling block, is actually, you can call it a test if you want to overcome it. And so if the problem is, I don't know how I'm going to find the time, well, I can tell you right now, you can find the time. I know that you can find the time because I found the time. It might take longer. It took me over 2 years to make my first album. It might take you longer, but you can find the time. And often finding the time is just a matter of setting a date and a time, like scheduling it in. As unromantic as that sounds, is scheduling it in. We schedule everything else in our lives. We schedule work. We schedule our workouts. We schedule everything else in our lives. Very few of us can get by in life with just flying by the seat of our pants for everything. Usually there are things we need to do, and if we want to get them done, we have to decide when that's going to happen. And you know what? You're going to need to do the same thing with music. You need to decide when you're going to devote a concentrated effort and uninterrupted time into learning music and planning and doing what you need to do to get to the next step. So I would encourage you to actually pull out your iPhone or whatever device you have, or your calendar, and make a weekly schedule. Make a time. Maybe it's like earlier in the morning before you go to work, or maybe it's in the evening. You need to find when you are feeling creative. And I know as artists, it can come and go. So I understand that. But sometimes you have to make yourself start doing it at first, until then all of a sudden the creative energy will start to flow after the fact. So sometimes if you just like, okay, I'm going to focus, I'm going to play piano, I'm just going to play for 5 minutes. It's your scheduled time. You've written it down from 6 to 7 in the evening. I'm gonna do music, and you sit down and you just say, I'm just gonna tinker around for 5 minutes. You know what? After 5 minutes, if you don't want to play music, then don't. But very likely that you are going to be into it now, and then you just accidentally hit a wrong key, and now you have an idea and you're going to go off of it. So I highly recommend chipping away at it every single week, whether it's writing or it's planning or you're going through these lessons, because this is all part of it. And persevere in that. I want you to be consistent in doing that every single week, no matter what. You're going to dedicate that specific time to yourself in your art, and taking this dream that you've had since you were a kid, most likely, and actually pursue it and fulfill your calling. All that to say that I am the least likely person who would be sitting here teaching you right now. for the past 10 years, my life has not been glamorous. I got my makeup on right now, but let me tell you, most of the time, my hair's in a ponytail. I'm in my workout clothes or yoga pants or something, and I got cold coffee in one hand, and I got a baby who needs a diaper change in the other. And that's my life. And I also homeschool my kids too, so I'm like, we got the textbooks open, we're doing math, we're doing all kinds of stuff. I have a very busy life with lots of demands and lots of love and all kinds of good things, but time consuming. And so of all the people who be sitting here talking to you about how you can have a music career and do it online and leverage power of the internet, it wouldn't normally be somebody like me. But I've been able to do this because I figured a few things out, and I spent a lot of time figuring it out. And I just know that if I'm able to do this, then absolutely anybody can do this. If a homeschooling mother of 5 kids under the age of 10 can do this, then you definitely can do this. So that's why I'm here, and I wanted to tell you about my backstory. And today, I mean, I have a crazy growing international fan base, like around the whole world. And there's like people from Russia and Japan and Australia and South America, like listening to my music and sending me emails every single day. And it's crazy, it's weird, it's wild, and I love it. And that's just because I figured out how to leverage the internet and use it to my advantage. So what I want to talk to you next is about your story. And I touched on this just not long ago, but I want to talk to you about what has defined you into who you are today. Now, this isn't about how past events like negative things have defined us. That's not what this is about. We're just talking about, in a sense of music, was there an event or a series of moments that made you want to be doing this and pursuing music as your calling? When did you know that you had to do this? When did you know that music was in your blood? And I want you to do the worksheet after this lesson, because you're going to go through that, and it might seem like maybe off topic or not relevant to you, but let me tell you, it's relevant. This is relevant, and we're going to build on this, and we're going to go to the next lesson and the next lesson, and each lesson is going to build upon each other. And there might be some time between what you do in one lesson and what you do in the next, depending on where you're at and what your goals are. But each of these steps is relevant, and every time I release a new album, I'm going to be going through some of these steps over and over again. So I want you to keep coming back to these, and I want you to come back to even this foundation about who we are, why we started doing this to begin with, and where that's taking us, and what road we're going down, and how that's going to project into the world through our art and our music. So I want you to think about that. Do the worksheet, and we'll come back and see you in lesson 2.